Thanks for joining me. I'm Meg from Meg D Yoga, and in today's video I'm going to share with you some very simple stretches that you can do at your desk during the day to provide you some relief and bring some movement into your day. We often, most of us, yoga instructors included, spend a lot of our days sitting at a desk, typing away, and we don't take enough breaks to bring in some alternative movements and stretches to keep our bodies loose and fluid and alleviate some of that tension that we can build up. So today I'm going to show you some simple stretches. We're going to touch on getting our spine moving in the 6 different directions. We're going to work on articulating our hips and making sure we're getting proper rotation and mobility there. And we'll end with some really nice movements for the wrists and the forearms to help loosen up that tension from typing all day. All right, so to begin, you can push away from your desk. If you're using a rolling chair, that's fine. Just make sure you're on a stable surface. We're not going to be doing anything too crazy where you're going to slide away. Just make sure you're stable. If you have arms on your chairs, I do not right now, but if you do, don't worry about that. You can either place an arm over the arm of the chair or rest your arm on the chair, whatever works for you as we go through some of these movements. So to start, let's work on getting some of the tension out of our neck. So we'll start with some very basic neck rolls. So sit up tall, come towards the front edge of your seat. Feet are planted flat on the floor. You can rest your hands lightly on your knees, top to your thighs. Relax your shoulders. And then just allow your head to drop to one side, one ear to the shoulder. Just maintaining a nice normal breath pattern here. And then slowly roll your head forward. Bring your chin to your chest. And taking this nice and slow so you can feel the stretch going through the back of the neck and coming over to the other side. And then repeating over to the other side, dropping that chin to your chest and slowly bringing ear to opposite shoulder. And let's just do that a couple more times. Slowly rolling. Noticing the different spots where you might feel some tension and see if they release as you continue to do these neck rolls. Wherever you are now, come back to the middle, chin to chest, and slowly rise your head back up to neutral. Very nice. Should be feeling a little bit less tense than you were when we started. So now we're going to do some side bends, get some movement from either side of our body, stretch these parts out here. A lot of us can kind of tend to get pretty tight through here from sitting all day. So again, maintaining our normal starting position. You can drop one arm to your side, either over the arm of your chair, or you can even rest it lightly on the arm of your chair if that's more comfortable for you. Dropping one arm to the side, and on an inhale, we're going to raise the other arm up, and exhale, just a nice gentle bend to the side, until you can feel a nice stretch through here. Again, keeping this top shoulder back, some energy coming out through these fingers. And your gaze can be forward, or if you'd like, you can look up if that feels good to you. Inhale, coming back up through center, and we'll exhale, switch to the other side. And again, noticing you may feel tighter on one side than the other. And that's totally normal. Inhale, come up through center, exhale, coming back over to that other side. This thing about doing these types of stretches is that you'll start to get an awareness of where you hold tension and whether you hold it more on one side than the other. It's really a useful thing to know and gauge over time. Inhale, coming up through center, and exhale one more time over to the other side. Inhale, come up through center, and bring both arms down. Next, we'll do some nice twists. So we've worked side to side. Now we're going to do some twisting motions. It's important that we move our spine in all 6 directions throughout the day. So again, making sure at the front of your seat, hands are placed on the tops of your legs. Now, a couple of options here. If you have an arm on a chair, you can place this hand on the opposite arm. You can place it on the opposite knee. Just gonna do this. Inhale, exhale, and we're gonna rotate around. This arm can come to the back of the chair. It can come behind you. The important thing here is to not be pulling with this hand. You're not wrenching or trying to force anything. Just the natural movement through the mid-back. Keeping our chin off our chest. And nice deep breaths here. We'll inhale to come back through center, and we'll exhale and take that twist to the other side. Inhale, come through center, and twist to the other side. It's always a good idea to try and do these exercises 2 to 3 times on each side, so you really begin to be able to increase your range of motion, loosen up those muscles. Inhale, come through center, and exhale, twist to the other side. And inhale, and come back through center. Nicely done. Next, we're going to do a seated cat-cow. This will be making sure we arch and round our backs. I'm going to move to the side just so you can see the movement of my back a little bit more clearly. But you're going to stay seated forward. Hands are going to be placed on tops of our knees. And again, we're not pulling or pushing here. They're just for resting. So to begin, we're going to inhale, arching our back. Gaze can go upward if you like. If this bothers your neck, you do not need to gaze upward. And on our exhale, we're going to tuck chin to chest, rolling through our back, tucking our navels in. Inhale, coming up and arching. And exhaling, rolling out. Inhale to come up. And exhale, rolling down. And coming back up to a nice neutral spine. So now your back should be feeling a little bit looser, a little less tension. If you do nothing else during the day, just working through those 3 sets of stretches a couple times a day, taking a break from your desk, it can be so helpful. Next, we're going to move into working our hips. Again, this is another area that can get pretty stiff because we're seated like this all day or like this, and we're not getting that movement into our hips that we generally would like to have. So we're going to work on some CARs, which are controlled articulated rotations. Fancy word for just, we're going to make sure that we're rotating our femur in our hip socket, getting that range of motion. So we're going to start, you're going to tuck one foot behind you like this so it's out of the way. This is helpful to place your hands on your hips. And with the opposite leg, you're going to raise it up a little bit. You don't want to be coming up here for this particular exercise. We're going to try and keep, some contact with our thigh on the chair. So just lifting up here, and then we're going to rotate this way. Foot comes inward, and then rotate that way. And this might feel a little strange. It's not something we normally do. Just doing this back and forth, internally and externally rotating, and then bring it down. And we'll switch to the other leg. Again, tucking the opposite foot behind underneath your chair a little bit here, and then rotating from the hip. Having your hands here helps you kind of feel that motion and feel your hip and that femur in the joint. And again, it doesn't matter how far your leg goes or how far your range of motion is. That's not the point. It's about having the motion. Center. Next, we're going to do some abduction and adduction. So you can bring your feet back underneath you, and you can raise one leg up just slightly. Again, not coming up here. Just raise up slightly, and we're going to first abduct, come outwards, and adduct, come inwards. Out, and in. And again, maintaining your hands here can help you note that this movement is all coming from the hip joint, nowhere else. So just nice, gentle in and out here. And we'll take that to the other side. Just lifting up, abduct, adduct, abduct, adduct. You just simply go in and out. And coming down. Finally, we're going to do some circular rotations. So we're going to do hip circles within the socket in both directions as well. And again, on this one, remember, it's not important how high your leg comes up or how big your circles are. That's not the point. We're just looking to kind of maintain that mobility and that motion, the rotation of the hips, the rotation of that femur within the hip socket. It's not a matter of how high you can go or how wide you can go. We're just maintaining that joint mobility. So you're gonna lift leg up, again, wherever feels good for you, and just do a nice circle out to the side. Do this about 3 or 4 times. Again, trying to keep the rest of the body still, and then take it in the opposite direction. And when we move to the other leg, you may notice very different range of motion in one leg to the other, and that's totally normal. So we'll take it to the other side. Rotating up and out, coming in. And remember, there should be no discomfort here, so if you feel discomfort or cramping, you might want to just reduce the size of your circle, reduce the motion, and taking it in the opposite direction. Coming down to neutral. All right, our final hip stretch. This is what we call a figure 4 stretch, sometimes also referred to as seated pigeon. Now, this is one where if you have difficulty bringing your leg up to the opposite leg, a couple of options for you here. You can keep the leg down and just allow the hip to fall open. You could place a block underneath as well to provide some height. Or additionally, you could use a strap or a belt and loop it around your foot to kind of help bring that foot up. Either way, you can do this many different ways. So traditionally, we'll come up, bring opposite ankle over opposite knee, sitting up nice and tall. And again, you can apply some light pressure on this thing, but you don't want to be pushing really hard. That's not the point of this stretch. Standing tall, you might be all ready to feel this little bit of stretch in the back of the hip and through your backside. This may be enough for you. If you want a little bit deeper stretch, or you feel you have a little bit more range, you can begin to lean forward and just coming only as far forward as feels good for you. Again, you feel it start to deepen through that outside of that hip and up through the backside. And just maintain normal breath here. And you can hold this for 10 seconds, 30 seconds. You can hold it for a few minutes if you feel like it. And the longer that you hold the stretch, you may find over time, if you've been here for like a minute or so, that you may be able to go deeper. But key here is to listen to what your body's telling you. Don't do anything that causes pain. Coming back up, and we'll switch legs. Now you want to have this foot flexed here, but it doesn't have to be a tight, hard flex. You just don't want the foot to dangle, so just a little bit of an active flexion here. And you may be able to tell just from looking at me, you might notice the same thing yourself, that one side may have a little bit more flexibility and openness with the rotation in the hip than another. This one's a little bit tighter than my other one. And that's totally normal, and that's totally okay. Again, as we talked about in the beginning, what's really nice about this and taking the time to do these types of stretches is you start to get to know your body, and you start to learn what sides have different movements, what sides have different tensions. Our anatomies are all very different, so what may work for me or what my range of motion may be can be dictated by how my hips are, and yours may be very different, and we can be different from one side to the next. So it's more about not right or wrong, but just noticing how our bodies are and how they are normally, and being able to evaluate and see how they adapt and change over time. So we'll take this stretch over to the side, again bending forward if you like, Really enjoying that sensation of the stretch. And then coming back up when you're done and releasing that foot to the ground. Finally, I'm going to finish up here with some wonderful exercises for your wrists and forearms and your fingers. Now again, these are great. You don't have to do all these exercises all at once. These wrist and arm stretches can be done separately during the day. So mix and match and do what your body is calling for when you need it during the day. So to start, we're first going to do some figure eights. So clasp your hands, bringing the fingers together, relax the shoulders, and then just start moving your wrists and hands in a nice figure eight position. Now, you might notice or hear some popping and cracking when you first start doing this. Again, that's totally okay. Things are getting nice and loose. This isn't a general movement we do throughout the day. So just really enjoy that. When you've had enough, you can release your hands, and then let's just do some regular wrist circles. In one direction, and then the other. Just noticing again, which ones feel like they're a little bit harder to do than the others. Let those fingers, and now let's do some stretches. So bringing your arm out in front of you and lifting the palm up. Gently pull back on your fingers. Again, gently. This is not an aggressive stretch. You just want to be able to feel that stretch right through here. Holding that for a few seconds. And then bending that hand down and just pressing this way a little bit. Again, we're not doing anything overly aggressively. We're just trying to introduce some movement and release some tension. And to the other hand. Release, shake them out. And then let's end with some jazz hands, just for some flair and some fun. But this is also a really good stretch and exercise for your hands. So make some gentle fists and then jazz hands. Stretch those fingers out. Can you wiggle them a little bit? Nice big stretch. Just keep doing that. Maybe 5, 10 times. Get some blood flow going, getting some nice stretch. Really splaying out those fingers. Bringing in that adjustment. And that there. And then wiggling all out to finish. Big finish. And just that shaking out can feel really, really good. And that is it. So I hope you found this really helpful. Again, you can do this whole series at once if you want. You can do just the spinal stretches, the hip work, the hand and wrist work. You can do them separately if you like, or spring them all together. But these are things that you can do multiple times a day if you like, but I really encourage you to at least try once a day to push back from your desk and make sure you're taking care of making sure you're getting some movement in your body other than just sitting. Thank you so much for joining me. If you enjoyed this video, please look for me on Facebook, my website, and Instagram. All are Meg D Yoga. megdyoga.com is my website. And if you're interested in seeing more from me, you can hit subscribe on the YouTube video, or you can join me later.